All right, I'm here with Easy from the Deposit Kingdom, a man who knows his way around some best ball correlations. And now that we have the NFL schedule for the year, it's time to really start digging in. So I want to ask Easy right off the rip, after reviewing these schedules, do you have a favorite playoff schedule, a team you think has the best setup here for weeks 15 through 17?
Yeah, finally came out of hibernation. The Lions are fun because they've got 3 dome games. I say this with an asterisk because like any correlation is good correlation, so I don't want to bury the lead here. We're going to be trying to correlate anything and everything, but that's the one that probably stuck out the most is the 3 dome games for the Lions.
And that's the thing too. I'm completely with you. My kind of phrase is I just want to be indiscriminately correlating, even if it is a week 17 game versus the Steelers or Browns. That appears very gross. But I do think if we widen the window to 3 weeks and we look at game environments as far as like dome, warm weather stuff, that's where I don't mind maybe starting to tilt exposures a little bit in one direction. Yeah. But I don't think anyone needs extra encouragement to draft more Detroit Lions. So that's just a cherry on top there.
Yep.
What about the worst playoff schedule? Any string of outdoor games or stuff that doesn't look great to you?
I mean, we got to be humble in like how much it's so hard. I said this the other day. It's really hard like on a Sunday morning to know what's the best and worst game of the slate going to be. You have an idea and then you're almost always wrong, like Browns Jets. So let alone like it's May and what's going to be the best game December 31st. I don't know. Hopefully no El Nino like Browns Jets, but the Patriots schedule like look kind of tough. So I know that that's a crowd favorite around here, but play Buffalo and then they're at the Ravens, at the Jets. So hard to see that being the game you need. But again, if you make an early Patriots bet, you might as well back it up, but that's not one I'm super targeting.
Yeah, I was looking at the overall projected points based on totals that had come out, and the Patriots and the Jets, the Browns are definitely way down there. The Bengals, Bucks, Ravens, Dolphins kind of projected to score the most over weeks 15 through 17, but you can kind of get a gauge for the gap. Like we're talking Bengals projected for 145.5 points over 3 weeks, and then the Browns in last projected for 126.5. So that's a pretty meaningful gap, but still nothing that a few touchdowns couldn't swing.
Yeah, and I think I saw like the early spreads were all less than a touchdown. Again, like a lot can change between now and then, but as long as the games are competitive and to your point, like 1 or 2 touchdowns take something from the worst or mid game to the best of the week.
What about your favorite week 17 game stack? And when I say this too, I think a lot about how it lines up ADP wise, not just like in a vacuum, this is the stack I want, but actually in the context of us drafting. Do you have a favorite stack so far?
I think Detroit, Minnesota is going to be the DFS chalk when it comes, and like something like an Amon-Ra, like Jordan Addison is something that like sort of lines up, and there's definitely uncertainty around if and when Addison gets suspended. You can always add on, running back later, Hawkinson. So that's definitely the chalk. And one that you sort of mentioned, like Miami, a lot of uncertainty and fragility with Miami this year. Like I'm not super in on them, but Miami and kind of Tampa Bay have options throughout the draft that you can almost always like find someone to stack that game. And Miami low key has like a better December environment than normal, assuming Tua and everything holds up. Like I believe they're home week 16 and 17, so like if weather comes into play, they should be more shielded from that than everyone else.
What about one to fade that is going to get very trendy, chalky here? Maybe people are reaching for it. Anything you want to not be a part of?
I think like the most cliche answer I could give is probably to dump cold water on the Bowers Neighbors stuff. It's fun. It's fun when you get it. If you get Neighbors at 9 or whatever and Bowers falls, but like if Bowers starts to be always at 12, 13, like I've had a kind of hard time drafting good teams with Bowers there. So maybe it's more of like if I'm playing it into chalk and the teams are more on the uncomfortable side for me, I might look to avoid that game.
Yeah, and it is. I don't mind the Bowers Neighbors, but building out the game stack for it is tough. I mean, we don't even know who the Giants quarterback is. All of the good Raiders pieces are expensive. It's like super polarized where it's just like the studs at the top and then just punting it late. So that one is tricky. What about a mini correlation you do like? I mean, there's so many options here depending on how you exactly want to define mini.
I sort of galaxy brain my thing. I'm calling it Bengals bailout, where the conversation is about like, you know, Joe Burrow, right? Like, if you take Chase and or Higgins, do you take Burrow at the 4-5 turn, or do you push it to 70? And I think that you have a lot of options with the Bengals. If you don't get Burrow to fall to you at 72, like the Cardinals ADPs line up really nicely. So you can obviously McBride and Marv might be, you know, starts to be chalky at the 2-3 turn, but Kyler lines up at pick 96. You have James Conner. His ADP is like right in that 70 range as well. There's a lot of ways, and you can also I think they line up with Miami as well. So Miami, Tampa Bay, and like a fun kind of theoretical leverage, like something like Justin Jefferson or Lamb, and then round 2 T Higgins, round 3 Marv. So you're getting a little bit of like leverage on Jamar Chase with like the, you know, if Jamar Chase isn't the guy you need, then, you know, T Higgins might be a little better of a bet in Justin Jefferson. So that's kind of a little threesome I'm looking at.
Yeah, I could see a lot of, because you're going to see so many Chase pairings with one of those 4 players at the 2-3 turn, that even if you do it at the 2-3 turn without Chase, you know, you start to think about the different ways you could get access to it. That won't just be the super comfy way.
Yeah.
What about, you know, everyone's always worried about, you know, are people over correlating, or are things going to get steamed up? Do you think there are any ADPs that are going to move because of week 17 correlation angles?
I think before like the boomers come out of like their shells, like I think Bowers is going to make a slow march up towards 13. There might end up being pushback against that. Marvin Harrison, it looks like, is already moving from like back end of round 3 to like the front of round 3 for the Bengals stuff. I'm trying to think, like people were sort of out on Devontae Adams in like the late round 3, but now I think they play Drake London. They play the Falcons. Rams is a fun one. So like the Drake London drafter in, you know, like the 8 slot or whatever might be taking Devontae Adams and keeping him from the 3-4 turn.
Yeah, the Marvin one, that's basically exactly what happened to Devontae Smith last year, where the CeeDee Lamb drafter always wanted it. Just all of a sudden it gets anchored there specifically because of that. The only other spot I'd been noticing, the way the ADPs work for Niners and Bears, and they're like really tightly clustered between like rounds 4 through 9. I could see like Purdy and Caleb starting to inch up because everyone's like piling in. It's really easy to get 2 guys from that game, and then those quarterbacks become pretty attractive.
Half the room is kind of fight because like each has like 3 pass catchers that goes before the quarterback. So about half the room is fighting for one of or both of Caleb and Purdy.
All right, I hopped us in a draft here, and let's see if we can go ahead and, you know, we're going to let the draft come to us, obviously, but let's also see if we can, you know, get some of this fun stuff, you know, some Detroit, Minnesota, maybe some Miami, maybe the Bengals bailout plan. We'll see what we can do. Do you have the easy sheet here?
I do.
That you want to share with me, and then I could have it up on screen as you update it?
Sure. That's a good call. The 1-9 is actually my 101, I think.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I think like that there's this wide receiver window. So like obviously like the top end guys are the top end, but I think like the Puka, Neighbors, Amon-Ra, even Nico and BTJ, like I think like that's a really fun pocket to like I want to choose last ish among those while still having, you know, good access in round 2 to like an anchor RB. And then I think like round 3 and 4, there's a lot of, you know, buy low receivers you can build a good team here.
I'm with you on that, where I feel like a lot of the wide receivers who go early round 3 are not different. Like when you can get Evans, Adams, Tet, Worthy, all those guys are back in, and I'm like, I'll take those guys straight up against Tyreek, Marv, McLaurin, etc. Tell people here about the sheet that they're going to be seeing here. I know a lot of people in the Deposit Kingdom are familiar, but if not, this is kind of a manual version of what has been the hot topic of conversation these days.
I'm calling it real-ish time assistance. yeah, a little more finger on the scale here, but yeah, it's been around for a couple years. Something I've been trying to figure out literally for 2 years is EPA, and like how do you better simulate range of outcomes and like how a player fits on your team versus like how you're going to fill out the roster. So it tries to throw in some variance and randomness, especially in the later rounds for like running backs.
Oops, sorry. We are on the clock.
Very
Puka
good.
falls to 9. Anything
Yeah,
else you like?
snap
Let's
pick
grab
Puka.
Puka. Hang on. I want to sorry, keep talking about this. You can put in
Yeah.
the thing here and yeah, talk about the EPA stuff you've been trying to dial in.
Yeah, so basically, trying to I've fallen into like the 2024 Davis Maddox trap of like you're always seeing the same guys at the top of the queue, and like how do you not click the same name, but like to better represent randomness. So the ranks are the ranks, and you know there's a dynamic component to them, but also trying to get like a better range of outcomes. You'll see. I think the coolest part is kind of like later, you know, someone like Jadon Blue or Tootin from the Jags, where it's like 70% of the time they don't really bubble up, but 20 or 30% of the time you really want them. So a lot of times it's gonna, you know, be screaming in your face to take it, and then some other times it won't. So trying to better capture that texture.
Is that
texture.
randomized or based on the type of player you've already selected?
Well, both, but let's make this pick. I mean, this is
London.
You take this chalk.
Yeah. London.
I'll go London for the game.
And this is kind of like the Bowers neighbors in that like you need one of them to fall
a spot.
Fall a spot to where it like won't be super chalky, but will probably happen. I don't know what, like a third of drafts or something like that, maybe less. I want to flesh out that like the Jadon Blue example or what you're kind of trying to do there.
So I've made kind of range of outcomes based on each backfield, like kind of archetype and contingency and like base role versus like how many people are fighting for the job. So like I used Jadon Blue, for example. I don't remember his number specifically, but let's say he wins the job 20% of the time, X amount of weeks into the season. Javonte gets injured 20% of the time. Miles Sanders gets injured, whatever. I kept it. I'm not IK being injuries. I'm just taking like historical running back injury rates.
Yeah.
So let's say it's 60% of the time Jadon Blue is kind of like, you know, 5 point per game, whatever his baseline is. But 30 or 40% of the time, he's just like, you know, a super smash, like he should have been going in round 6 type thing.
Yeah, it'd be cool if there was like a way to quantify, like if you're taking, you know, say a veteran back where you feel a little bit better about their early season production versus like if you have a bunch of rookies, then it's like, okay, maybe I don't want the Jadon Blue type on this team. I just want the, you know, the bankable stuff like that. That's the texture of the running back room is interesting too.
We're not going to be replaced by computers yet. There's still place for us to click the buttons.
All right, Kyron, Allen, Evans. What is what your sheet like here?
It likes Kyron. Like Evans kind of bubbles up sometimes, but I would take Kyron. Like the receivers on the way back are good. The way that I've been like my kind of strategy, if you will, at the back end is like if you can get like McCaffrey in round 2, I think that's great. Because for round 3, it's kind of like I want Kyron or Chase Brown, or I don't really want a running back here.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to get Kyron, Chase Brown, or an earlier running back. Otherwise, I'm just kind of punting it off. So I'm happy. All that to say, I'm happy to see Kyron at 33.
And my kind of thought is I don't like it when people go out of their way to premium stack a game. But when you're getting it at ADP or, you know, we got a couple slight, I just don't like, I guess the Marv example we were talking about, or where you're going to start to have these big reaches where it's like, I want this early game.
Yeah.
But if it lands in your lap, I'm definitely more open to it. So at this stage here, we see some interesting picks. James Cook goes early, and we're looking at Xavier Worthy, Tet, DJ Moore. What is the sheet like? Worthy?
Yeah, I like Worthy.
Yeah.
I've been super high on Worthy this offseason. I think, you know, early reports on Rashi look pretty fine to like good, but I think there's some fragility there that, you know, if people are projecting Rashi 100% healthy, like I think Worthy's got a little more juice, like can steal a little bit more of that, or Rashi is really sliding more into like the Kelsey kind of role in that offense. And I think Worthy has, I don't know if you want to call it 5%, 10%, whatever chance of just like, this is Tyreek 2.0. And like his rookie season just like compares super favorably to like most anything that we've seen. 9 touchdowns regular season, 3 in the playoffs.
I'm with you on that too. And I think the way like Rashee Rice almost feels kind of like the running back archetype at wide receiver, where it's like the projectable volume, where you're like, if he gets the target workload, like, yeah, he's a smash, but it's like, what if Kelsey turns back the clock? What if Jalen Royals is really good? Which is possible. Whereas Worthy just feels insulated by his kind of skill and role.
Yeah. And at like your wide receiver 3, like I'm fine if Worthy sort of mirrors what he did last year, where he doesn't really make your lineup more than once a month, but when he does, hopefully it's, you know, 2 touchdown game, 100 yards.
We are already back on the clock here. RJ Harvey, Chuba, Waddle, Addison. What are we seeing here?
Harvey or Walker. I like either of the running backs.
Let's go ahead. I have not gotten much Harvey yet.
Me neither. And it's a little week 17 with Worthy, so that's probably why he was at the top of the list.
And top ADP value there. I'm pretty sure we taken. I think we might have taken the top ADP value.
We've taken the top ADP guy that also has happened to exactly line up for week 17. So this is sort of like stealing.
Yeah. We always say that you can use these as a nice tiebreaker, or sometimes it'll just land as the best and obvious click. I think going back to the quarterback thing, I think where it's helpful, like to see your adjusted rank, is say you are getting kind of boxed out at quarterback and you're like, you need Stafford. And it's like, I'm at pick 130 and it's like, well, Stafford's ADP isn't for 25 picks later. It's like, well, you don't have a quarterback and his adjusted rank is like pick 90 right now. Like it's okay to lock up Stafford.
For sure. And I think like what I found so far, and I'm trying not to get too running back heavy early. I think there's like a plethora of guys in like the 160 plus range that could all look really good. Maybe we're taking too many zeros for this time in May. And I know there's a lot of good research around that, but I actually really like the late running backs right now. Yeah. So I'm more open to just passing on, whatever running back is available, and, I'll take a quarterback and then I'll figure out later. Having said that, like Ken Walker here looks really good.
I know at 64, I'm down to play.
And then we can kind of, we take a breather here.
So in the sheet, the top kind of quadrant to the right of our team here, this is just kind of by assumed best available ADP. And down here
and
is like this is
just
like
up
the most.
At the bottom is just like, if all you care, if you were doing like a star method type thing, and it's like, I don't want to forget about who my top correlations are for the rest of the draft. Like that's what the bottom is. But the top is like ADP plus or minus, like -5 plus 15 or so.
Why?
And you can import if you can import you can like copy paste the draft board if you're doing it, on your own, but it's hard to do when you're streaming, obviously.
Yeah. Do you think, I assume Stafford's getting boosted way more than Penix because of the addition of Kyron versus just being London? Okay. Yeah,
that's just like a big bet on the Rams offense. And there goes Mahomes. And I'm pretty okay with that.
Pearsall's the slight faller. Reed, Shakir, Mooney's down here if he's bubbling up.
I would go Ricky P. Opens up Purdy for us, and like maybe Ricky Purdy is like thin-ish, but like if we get like a Purdy fall, like that's good, gets us like back on track. I'm looking at Mooney, who's someone who like I don't like absolutely love, but that really helps build the story here.
I'm the same way. I have not been taking him, but for this team, the other option would be like one back. Burden with Pearsall would be the other week 17 correlation there.
Yeah, I feel like this is like a fine time to let the team dictate.
So let's see here. Assuming Brock doesn't go, do you want to try to push him to 112?
We can be. It depends on like, I would take a tight end here.
Jonnu at this value seems pretty nice.
I'm more into, like, to be honest with you, I'm more into Kelsey and Andrews than
Kelsey.
Jonnu. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll go Kelsey.
All right, let's do Kelsey. You had told me you had a little Miami love, so I wasn't sure if you wanted to.
I know. That. No, it's place, time and place. I think Kelsey kind of works here. We could do. Did Bo Nix go? Yeah. Okay, I was gonna say
he did. The only other benefit of the Jonnu is if someone does go rogue with Brock, you still kind of have Tua back in that same range as a quarterback out. But I think we're gonna be okay with Brock.
Yeah, this is like a big reason why I'm really hesitant on Bowers, and I know that's not popular. And like all the stuff that I look at, like, really loves Bowers, but I feel like Kelsey, Andrews are like 20 picks underpriced. So it's really hard, like the 2v2 of like Bowers and Josh Downs versus, whatever receiver, like Nico and Kelsey, like kind of seems like a no-brainer to me. I guess we're on the clock.
So Brock just falls in our lap here.
Yep.
I love doing this. And again, the team would have been fine even if we got sniped on him, but then getting Brock at a value, and it puts a little less pressure on having to lock up both Penix and Stafford if it doesn't work out. We're about to pick here in the 11th. So another Denver Bronco in Marvin Mims. What is the sheet like?
I feel like I got to put Mims here at the bottom because he would be an ADP value. It likes Mims a lot. I'm like also super high on Njoku. Mims at 129. Rashid Shaheed is a big fall too. Let me just punch in Shaheed.
We got 5. Let me know which wide receiver you like of those two.
I think it's a coin toss. I would go Mims.
We got Mims. I wonder if this is. I did a draft earlier today and I took Mims. I hadn't been selecting much of him, but he keeps falling 10 picks past ADP. Is this in? I wonder if it's in conjunction with the Pat Bryant steam that people are getting less excited.
It seems like
about
it.
Mims.
It seems like it. Yeah. I mean, the investment wasn't that high in Pat Bryant. I'm not really scared off about it. And like same for Evan Ingram. Like, like there may be some like more target competition, but also Mims really showed up in November, December, January for Sean Payton. I don't think he's gonna go away from like at 120. It's like more than cost adjusted.
Yeah, and we have Harvey, so we get another Broncos piece, and I think the archetype too of like Mims and Pat Bryant couldn't be more different players: size, stature, speed, just completely different. So I'm not really worried about it. I just like always trying to figure out the psychology of why does a guy keep dropping. And it's funny too because sometimes the market moves in tandem, like Travis Etienne moving down, Tootin moving up, but then it's like Jacoby Myers has stayed flat while Jack Besh rises. Like there's some of those that don't actually move in a negatively correlated way.
Yeah, there's a little bit of lag there.
Speak of the devil,
I like him, but
Etienne at 136. Blue, what is the sheet like?
It likes ETM, but like there's a certain amount of times where blue bubbles up. Let's go blue.
Okay, I got it in at the last second. We get Jaden Blue here.
A minor buy breaker and just like archetype. Like if we're going to be leaning Kyron, Kenneth early, that gives blue more time to get up to the top. This is kind of like the big secure the stack piece for us. Like if you did the Falcons Rams, like 153, 160. Now our next 2 picks is like Algier, Penix, Stafford. Like I want to leave with 1, if not 2 of those.
Yep. I was worried this guy was going to do something crazy. He has. This is the Adams drafter.
I know Mahomes made no sense for him either.
No. Do we want to just lock up Stafford here because we're pretty in a lurch?
Yeah. Is there anyone like super fell besides that, like outside of quarterback?
Ray Davis, a few spots.
I'm good. Yeah. Okay. I'll just say we'll take Stafford.
Yeah.
Definitely the most valuable to our team. And like opportunity cost. The other thing that it tries to do is like opportunity cost of like what's going to be available at your next pick. So it's like after Stafford, it falls off a cliff. So it's like, please take Stafford. And then it's like a Ray Davis, whatever. Like there's 20 other running backs that can all win a job.
So what's it going to think about our draft capital at quarterback? Because just my gut is this is like a tweener, like Purdy Stafford.
Yeah, it's not recommending me hardly any quarterbacks. I mean, maybe if someone stacked, I don't even know if we have any available stacks.
We don't.
Left. So
I guess Darnold with Kenneth Walker isn't absurd.
You could back it with no
like
Fant or something. It's kind of gross.
Yeah.
Like Bryce Young is always like a back stack option. But yeah,
I'm tilting because this guy who took Penix has Tet too. The Stafford snipe would have been more justifiable. Bryce Young with Tet.
Yeah.
Whatever. But like you said, we're in good shape at basically every position. We're also kind of tweener with tight end, where we can go 2 or 3 tight ends.
Yeah, can you click tight end?
Yeah, Ertz, Freiermuth, Henry, Gesicki, Mason Taylor.
Yeah, no one super popping up.
What is the sheet like here? We got
go like Leggett is someone that I've been taking. It's gonna require. It doesn't really require a Bryce Young fall, but if you get a Bryce Young fall, great.
Yeah,
you can kind of shut it down. I think receiver. I start to run out of names that I like after about here.
Yes. Yeah, there's a couple of the rookie darts that are kind of intriguing, but nothing that you have any confidence about. So we're about to pick in the 16th here. I don't think anything we do with quarterback at this point. So we're kind of looking at, you like Mason Taylor?
Not a ton. Guy like a lot of Jarquez Hunter, but we probably shouldn't handcuff. Devin Neal, someone that I think it might be a little binary, right, with Kamara, and I don't know if you count Kendra or not, but like as the running back versus receiver thing, I think your risk of zeros is much higher for running backs right now, but maybe not. I'm like still working through it. Like the names here, like Pat Bryant, like could very easily have a red shirt year. Like Keenan Allen might not get it. Like Yoshivas, like how many times is he making your life? I don't think you're getting huge risers. Let me put it that way. I think your risk of zero at a running back, like Devin Neal could legit be a zero, but with like one good blurb, he can go up 5 rounds in a month, which is kind of why we play the game in May. But like, what's your CLV going to be on Yoshibas or Coker or Parker Washington? The way that the drafts are going, I think people are overpricing safety and like, I don't know if it's just me, just like NFL offenses are like slower and more spread out. So like round 16 is not as good as round 16 used to be. And I'm okay. I think you're just going to have to accept more zeros than you're used to if you want to build like teams that can win a big tournament. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're drafting this early anyways, you're clearly willing to crack a few eggs in pursuit of an incredible team. What do you like here? Do you have a tight end you like?
We could go to like Jawan Shuck, or we could do a Rams tight end.
Yeah.
Jawan feels like kind of like you're getting last year's price on Jawan, and I understand like the Saints situation imploded to say the least. But Taysom being gone like opens up 5 touchdowns. Granted, like maybe that offense just flat out loses 5 touchdowns, but it's the same price as last year when Jawan was entering the year hobbled. There's worse clicks. It's not sexy, but I think it might be a little more juice than their looks.
Yeah, and again, like talking about backdoor stacks, I mean, to get what you're playing, like if the expectations they need to be as far as Devin Neal, Jawan Johnson, and Tyler Shuck to work out, it's not that much that they need to do. I like Shuck here as the QB3. What do you think?
Yeah.
it is a shame to not be able to select Jarquez Hunter as he falls.
I know.
But
I'm
agree.
super high on him. Where I think that there's a reason like Orem didn't get used much, and then they spent another pick at running back.
I'm with you. And I do think it's on non-Kyron teams, it makes sense to make him a priority target, but it also is like if Kyron is smashing for us in week 17, like Jarquez Hunter is probably not getting more than 10 touches.
Yeah, well, there's 149 other drafts that you can take, 20 Jarquez Hunters and feel pretty good about it.
Yep. All right, I'm going to list off this team, and then you can give me your final thoughts. We did set out, you told me some of your favorites, but we had to let the draft come to us. So no Detroit Mini,
Nope.
No Bengals bailout here, but built a pretty nicely correlated team. Brock Purdy, Matthew Stafford, Tyler Shuck, Kyron Williams, RJ Harvey, Kenneth Walker, Jaden Blue, Devin Neal. Wide receivers, Puka, Drake London, Xavier Worthy, Ricky Pearsall, Darnell Mooney, Marvin Mims, Xavier Legette. And then Travis Kelce, Cade Otton, and Jawan Jennings. What do you think?
I think this is a great example of you can stack week 17 without reaching. Yeah. And 11 of our 18 players are week 17 stacks, which is great. So, and we have, net ADP value on the team. We have ADP value all the way through Darnell Mooney. So I think we let the draft come to us, position allocations all check out. It's receiver, running back balanced, a little more running backs up top, but then we stopped at 5. We have, some pure contingent guys. I think it's really good.
I do too. And I do think you mentioned the ADP value you can see here in the column M, but this is ideally, I think what you'd want it to look like, that your green values, and then it's literally when ADP stops being a predictor of fantasy scoring, then it's you're just correlating, you're getting guys based on needs, and the ADP value can turn red and it doesn't matter. Yeah,
it doesn't matter. It's more if you did a draft capital allocated ADP value, we'd be in the bright green,
Yep. Yeah, and I mean, really, we didn't have a ton of tough decisions. I think if that guy would have just taken Bryce Young and we got, Penix, and we probably would have been able to get both those, and the team would have felt a little cleaner. But I think between the Carolina, we took a stab at that. Bryce almost came back to us, and then you pivot again to the Saints. I think the Milrow dart would have been fine to pair with Ken Walker. We could have done that. So you're never fully boxed out if you stay, flexible.
Yeah, you stay in your lanes. You make a plan B, plan C. There's almost always a way to dig yourself out, and if you kind of stay flexible and don't get too heavy positionally. Is probably the most important thing, and one of the things I'm trying to tighten up versus last year.
So let people know if they want to check out the easy sheets here. Obviously, just a companion tab you can pull up in Google Drive or whatever while you're drafting. But where do they check it out?
easydfs.xyz. Everyone bucks me out of the good domain name, so it's live now. It's the only thing on the site. You can't miss it. Yeah, it's live. Awesome. I'm gonna try to be making updates, pretty often to this thing. I use it. I've used it for the last 2 years. I'm pretty pumped about what I've been able to add. Has been eluding me for a while, so I feel pretty good about that.
Awesome, and I'll also mention last year I made a lot more evergreen videos, and I made a video. It was right when the schedule came out, I think, and talked through a lot of the stuff Easy and I were talking about as far as how we want to think about correlation, but we don't want to get too dialed in to specific correlations. I'll link to that video right now. I'll have it pop up on the screen if you want to check it out, but that's a good primer. And we talk about some of the correlation boosts in Easy sheet there as well. So if you're kind of trying to get familiarized with how to think through correlation, I recommend that video. All right, appreciate you guys. Let me know in the comments you got any other guests you'd like to see hop on and do drafts with me. I always appreciate getting some suggestions there. Subscribe to the channel and come hang out with us in the Deposit Kingdom Discord. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.